In this step-by-step class, we'll be doing a painting called Vibrant Winter Sky. Welcome to Painting with Janine Liza. This artwork is called Vibrant Winter Sky. We're going to be using concentrated watercolour paint from tubes in cerulean blue, rose, violet, yellow ochre, black and white. These four colours will have more water than the black and white. We will fill the blue, the rose, the violet and the yellow ochre almost to the top with water, and for the black and white we'll just put one drop in each of water just to keep them from drying out. Because we will want to use those thicker later. I have my cups of water, I have my 3/4 inch flat brush and my size 3 small round brush. Today I may use this toothbrush as well. Okay, I also have a sample strip of paper and my 140-pound watercolor paper stuck down with the white tape. Okay, so let us begin. We're going to first use our blue paint to start a little sketch. So I'm just going to stir it up here. There we go. Wash my brush. Dry. Wash my brush. And purple, look at those vibrant colors. Absolutely love the violet. Here we go. Well, the rose is pretty impressive too. Let's see. Still quite dirty on the brush there. So I've mixed those up. Might as well get them mixed up to start. Oh, I might as well mix the yellow ochre too, since we're on a roll. There we go. All right, now we're all mixed up, right? So I'm going to start with creating the snow hills. And I usually say to my students, here's the first thing we're going to do. You got to find the middle of your paper and then go down just a little bit and put a dot. Now that's the hardest part of the painting. Now comes the easy part. I'm going to create a couple of bumps from here, one from here to the edge of the page, and then one from here to the other side. Now we're just going to do a couple of zigzag lines. And they're kind of wiggly lines that come from this. This is going to be the vanishing point in our painting. So we're going to create now a wobbly zigzag line that comes down to the front. It doesn't have to be that wobbly, but I'm just kind of emphasizing it. Here we go. And so we're creating a path that is open here and gets smaller as it goes back into the distance. Now I'm going to do something that I was taught by somebody a long time ago, and that is to turn your painting upside down to paint the sky. And I'm going to take, I'm not going to wet this first, so we're going to be doing wet on dry, but still we're going to have enough liquid to do a little tipping. So I'm going to start with my beautiful pink, vibrant pink. Also, if I'd wet the paper first, I might dilute my color too much, and I don't really want to do that because I want to keep it strong, intense. Here we go. Oh, I got a bit of paint on there that's not been mixed in. There we go, that's okay. We can come back from that. We just keep going. Here we go. Got that rose, vibrant rose on there. All right, good. Now while that's still wet, I want to move quickly to the violet, and I'm going to overlap the violet onto the rose. There we go. Ooh, vibrant violet. And got to make sure my brush is super clean for the blue paint. Get my cerulean blue. Oh, that's got some lumps in it too, so you want to just quickly check that it's all mixed in well. Sometimes it's a bit cheeky. And I'm going to start further away from the violet for the blue first, because I don't want the color to suddenly mix without me getting a chance to do any tipping. So I'm leaving a little gap here. And then I'm going to work my way slowly towards the purple, because as soon as they touch, oh, you can see it, they start to sort of blend together. Here we go, gently touching the purple now. And so now comes the fun part. I get to tip my painting just gently down. I don't want to tip it so far that the paint runs down the hills. And then I'm going to tip upwards into the blue, the purple moving and tip sideways. Oh, I just love this. Oh, it just gives some beautiful wispy movement to the clouds. And down a little bit more into the pink. Ooh, yeah, I like that. That's nice. All right, I'm going to take my tissue and I'm going to gently just wipe the paper where the paint runs down, so that I have a nice smooth effect. And I see that there's a patch here that lost a bit of its rose, so I'm just tapping some rose there and wiping off the excess as it runs down. What this does is it gets most of the liquid off of the paper and leaves you with just a beautiful, smooth, flowing sky. I'm going to just take the blue now, because it looks like it got a bit pale, and run some blue by tipping my board and touching the blue at the top here. You can have a lot of fun with this. I mean, you could do an abstract work where you're just tipping your board and just dripping paint down it. I've done that too. It's a lot of fun. Maybe we'll do that in another class. Okay. All right, now. That's good. So now I need to let this sky dry. While I let my sky dry, I'm going to work on the bottom half. So when you're working on a watercolor painting and you've got a wet area, you know, it's good if there's other areas you can work on while you give that space a break to dry. So I'm just going to add some yellow ochre down here to the path. I'm going to paint over the blue because it's quite thick and it's going to kind of cover up some of that initial line. But what it does do, I'm trying not to touch that pink because I know it's going to be cheeky and it's going to run down into the paint of the path if I touch it. So also what I was going to say, I'm not so sure if I said it, is that the blue down here will become like a shadow along the edge of the path. You're not going to see it later anyways because I'm going to add a bit of black. So, painting my path. The paint's so wet that it doesn't really matter, you know, which way I'm doing my strokes, but you can do your strokes kind of horizontally, and that kind of goes with the look of the path. There we go. And if you keep getting wet paint and you touch the last bit of paint that you painted that's still wet and you start to connect with it, it can give you a smoother effect. Okay, so that's good too. Now this is actually quite a bit wet, sorry. So I am gonna pause for a second and let that dry a little bit more before I move forward. Okay, the painting is a little drier now. I'm going to continue. I have this strip of paper here. You're probably wondering why. It is because I want to make a slightly lighter version of each of the colors in the sky to create a little reflection on the snow. Now there probably wouldn't be a reflection like that in reality. I mean, some places there might be, but I'm just doing it because it looks beautiful. So I'm going to take a little bit of I've got some water here. I'm going to take a bit of the pink and transfer it into this water here, just to create a lighter version. Then I'm going to transfer some of the blue into this water here. To prevent having to use an extra palette, you can also just add water to your current palette to weaken the paint. And a little bit of purple into the water there. And I think I need a little bit more of the blue in the blue one. There we go. Okay, maybe a little more pink in the pink. Okay, so I'm going to test those colors now using this strip of paper. Let's see how different they are from the ones in the sky. That's lighter. That's a lot lighter. So we can actually take a bit more of the blue. That's okay. It's good like that. All right, purple. As you can see, they're slightly lighter versions. That's great. It's good to have a piece of, scrap paper that you can test colors out on before applying them. So we're going to go with the reflection being opposite. So we'll start with the pink. It's going to go the furthest back on the hill and just have it kind of do it in a curved strokes so that it supports the shape of the hill. Just like that. You know, you can think about it too much when painting and, like I want to get things this way or that way, but, very often most of my students' works turn out much more beautiful than mine because they just have fun with it. They're just having fun with their brush strokes. And that's what makes something beautiful. Enjoying it. There. We're going to do the purple next. That's going to go around the center. And you can go a little bit into the pink and up that. And purple on this side. Now you can even use the big brush because you get more done with less strokes. Let's just see. Just do that with the big brush too. Kind of like that. So I turned the brush, so I was on the flat side, and then I turned it to the side to kind of get those pointy bits. All right, and the blue. Blue is down here, and there we go. Blue. I like that. Lovely. All right, now that is very wet, so I'm not going to be able to touch this area until that dries. But the sky is now a little more dry. Okay, using the black paint, I'm going to just drain the brush a little bit, so by touching the edge of it, the metal on the tissue. See how some of the liquid came out, but I haven't lost the paint from the brush. This is so that I can carefully paint my trees on the background. So I'm going to do these zigzag trees on the hills. I'm just placing 3 dots to give me a guide of where my trees are going to be. Little one there. And then just the tip of the brush in there. I don't want to drench it too much. And I'm going to zigzag my way down to place the tree on there. There we go, making sure this little sticky outy bits there, sticking out the sides of the tree. And there we go with the next one, zigzagging from very small at the top to wider and wider. Boom, sitting on the hill. I'm going to do a few trees on this side also. And remember that your point might be hidden behind the hill here, so you still want to keep your tree kind of vertical. And then a little bit of it can disappear behind the hill, so it's like you imagine this corner. And then we'll do another one here. He's sitting right up there. Lovely. And one more. I don't know if I should do a big one or a tiny one. I think I'll go with a larger one. And here we go. You know, I'm not being too fussy about the brush strokes. I pressed the brush in quite a bit as I got to the lower branches because they're thicker and heavier anyway, so it filled the space in nicely. You know? And you want to just check your edges a little and have some bits sticking out. And there you go. Now you can see it taking shape. I'm going to put a few birds in the sky. I think it's dry enough. Again with the top of the M-shaped birds. And some getting a little smaller into the distance. And I want to use the very tip of my brush. It's gotten a bit thick with paint, so sometimes you have to give it a good wash, wipe it off, dip it back in your paint, roll it. So you roll your brush a little bit on the palette to try and join all the hairs together. And then drain it. And then, so you're re-establishing that fine point on your brush. And then I'm going to do a couple of birds with the wings upwards. Just a couple of strokes like that. Up, up. And a couple of tiny ones way, way back there in the distance. Kind of supporting that vanishing point that you have here with your back of your path. Okay, so we're going to work on the path. So I'm going to add some shadow to the edge of the path with the tip of my brush. I like to use broken lines so they're just not too uniform and consistent, like that. And I'll come down here, so you do a little bit, leave a tiny gap, do a little bit, leave a tiny gap, and that's a broken line. Okay, also I want to put shadow on one side of my path just to give it a little bit of interesting effect. So I'm kind of almost like doing the zigzag tree, but I'm leaving gaps and just creating a bit of shadow on the path, like that. A lot more to one side than the other, you know? I guess the broken line didn't matter on that side. There we go. And this is just a rustic like kind of path, so it's not paved or anything. So it can look pretty rough. That's good. And I think I might even like to add a few specks to the path. Now I have to be very careful. Oh, look how that black has gone up into that. Now I can wet that in a minute and dab it out, but I want to be a little bit careful. So I'll just put this paper across here, and I'm going to flick downwards with my brush. I'm getting a little bit of black paint, flicking downwards. I just want to create a few black specks just in the path area. I don't want them in the sky or anything. Just to give a texture to the path, like that. Okay? And then I'll lift that up so that, you know, if a couple of little specks got on the other side, it's okay, because snow doesn't just look perfect all the time. So let's just dab these little dots of black here and just gently try to remove them. There we go. Now when that's really dry, if you've lost a lot of your color, you can just add it back in by touching the purple and gently touching those patches. Okay. I think we're going to need to let this dry before we do the next part. Oh, I do see one more thing to do just for a moment. I'm going to add a tiny bit of a broken black line to the top of the hill in the distance. Because the trees are silhouettes, and I think the edge of the hill would be full of dark too. That's good. Are these dry? Oh yes, so we actually can add a couple of little lines to the hill as well. Again, just supporting the shape of it. So a few lines that just go up like that. No. And on this side, just a couple of lines kind of supporting the shape of the hill, and just like that. All right, I'm going to add another little bird in here, somewhere here. There. Okay, let that dry and I'll be back for the next step. Okay, so I've used some clean water to stir up my white paint, and the white paint is now a creamy texture, which is great. Now I'm going to add snowdrops to this painting. There's 3 ways I can do this. I can take my brush, and you know how we drained it with the black paint, we're going to do that with the white. We can just place dots on the paper like this, adding snowdrops to our scene. This is one way. They're going to be everywhere, on the path, on hills, snowfalls, everywhere. Another way is to spatter the paint onto the painting by pointing your finger at the painting and flicking downwards with the brush off of your finger. So flick down, and you've got to move around when you're doing this so that you're not creating specific lines of drips. Like you can see up here there's a few lines, but you can't avoid all of it, but just make sure you're moving around as you're flicking so that you can get a nice balance of snowdrops all around. Now another way to do this, so you can get finer snowdrops, is to put the tip of a toothbrush in the paint and hold it like that and flick with your thumb downwards. Now if you flick the wrong way with the toothbrush, like that, backwards, you'll end up flicking paint in your eye. So make sure you start on the outside of the toothbrush and move in this motion, facing downwards at the paper. Okay, and it gives a mist. It gives like a misty effect of snow. See that tree just became very powdery white because the mist of the paint of the toothbrush. So you get a different effect with each technique. You'll get finer dots with the toothbrush, you'll get medium-sized dots with the spattering, and then you can get larger dots with dripping the paint like this with the tip of the brush, like not dripping, tapping on the paper, and creating these larger dots to add variety to the drops of snow, which also gives the painting depth, because obviously things that are smaller are further in the distance, and the larger snowdrops might appear to be closer to you. Okay, And that is the painting. I am going to sign my J for Janine right here. Well, that was a lot of fun. I look forward to creating the next class. I'll see you then. I hope you've enjoyed this project. Thank you for viewing it and/or trying it out. I look forward to sharing more projects with you as you continue in these painting classes. You'll find more classes on Art with Janine Liza on YouTube.